everybody. We're back. Thanks for staying with us. You're listening to Planet Green Shoes. We have officially 34 minutes left. And I know we've got Tim Beck on the line. We're going to go right now. And I see Steve Sharp has arrived on the hold line. Bear with us, gentlemen. We're going to be right to you. We're going to first go to Steve Green of the Human Solutions. Steve, welcome back to the show. How are things?
Good. How are you guys doing tonight?
Very good. Thank you. Why don't you tell us what's happening with the Human Solutions and any updates that you care to share?
Yeah, we're just, like I said before, a grassroots organization. We don't have any big funding. We're just patients and caregivers and people in need. We have a couple of dates coming up here on August 9th. We have Corbin, which is, again, the Hydro World case. This one's going to be in Mount Pleasant at 2:30 to have a Section 8 hearing. It's Isabella County. On the 12th, we have Rachel Nichols at 11 in Shiawassee County. That's also going to be a Section 8 hearing. On the 13th at 10 a.m. in Cassopolis, we have Jonathan Deek at a prelim. On 8/13 as well, we have Maria Scheller in Oakland County. Maria Scheller Green, that's my wife. That'll be for another pretrial. On the 14th, I myself will have in Oakland County a Section 4 hearing and pretrial as well. And on the 8th, we will be back in Jackson County in front of Judge Beebe at 3 p.m. for civil matter custody dispute where a child's being withheld because the person's a patient. And again, that's Maria Scheller, my wife. And on the 23rd, we want to just go ahead and reiterate the Argro case. That'll be at 8:30 a.m. in Oakland County. And if I could add one thing here, I had an area of my transcripts that were highlighted. We experience every day people asking about prelims, preliminary examinations in district court. I heard earlier someone mention that they had got it dismissed at prelim. This excerpt reads, "If you waive it, that is an acknowledgement by the defendant that I do not want to have an examination. I'll just agree that there is finding of probable cause and that I probable cause and that I committed, and the case goes to circuit court." So I just think that's important that general people and patients can understand that if you're advised or for any other reason you waive your preliminary exam without putting your hands up and saying, I did not do this, that is basically an omission, that there was probable cause and that you probably committed that crime.
Well, I wouldn't really agree with you, I have to say. And I think that in most instances, people probably should hold their preliminary exam. I've always leaned towards holding instead of waiving even before medical marijuana. Why? Because you get a couple shots at the officers if it's a drug-related chance you get to go at, and lock them in and hear what they're going to say and cross-examine them before trial. Gives you an opportunity to lock them in and be more prepared for the trial and how it's going to go down in front of the jury. However, sometimes once you do that dance with them, they're set off and they're more prepared. Sometimes the concept of getting the one witness in front of the jury for the first time is the strategy. Sometimes charges may be added at the exam, where if you waive, no additional charges will be added. Meaning when you go to trial, you're only going to be going to trial on the initial charges. And one of the things about the preliminary exam, they almost legislated it away. There was actually a proposal to eliminate preliminary exams where they would just go to circuit court. And I try to explain to people all the time that even after you hold the exam, you should, 99% of the time the defendant is going to be bound over. That's not a reason to waive it. The reason why you hold it is because you want to get something from the proceeding. There's some value that can be had. You just do not practice law in the world that, is under the theory of, I ain't waiving shit. That's just not a way to live. There's reasons why one does something, and they've got to be well thought out and individualized in every single case. But again, I think holding the exam is usually the preferential way to go. And your point of what is a waiver really is only this, Steve. It's that the government has issued a complaint based upon a prosecutor signing a complaint and a swear-to being in front of a magistrate or a judge, which is essentially after they say the things, the judge or magistrate makes a finding that probable cause exists to warrant the issuance of a complaint or charges. So there's already like a predetermined decision that at least probable cause exists. The waiver is challenging the requirement of them to establish evidence to that effect. And you're right, there has a proof that has to be made, but at the end of the day, it's a very, very low threshold, and dismissal of charges is very, very rare. If you've got a Section 4 defense, you should be exercising it all day long. If you've got issues that can complicate, the actual weight of the evidence and amounts and lab reports, all of those are relevant things to bring about. But I just think that each situation requires an independent view of things. But Steve, you are an asset to the community, and I appreciate you coming on the show and letting people know about the various events that are taking place. And I know that all of the patients and caregivers that find themselves in court in that terrible situation really feel the support when they look back in the audience and see that there are members of the community there to support them. So I know from even my own clients, I know that it's much appreciated. So thank you for all that you do, my friend.
Thank you very much. And if you could just give out the website, there's a form on there if anyone needs support or has a request of any kind. We've been taking food to some people that are in limited funds and other things like that. So if there's any way we can assist any patients or marijuana users out there, please just reach out and let us know how we can help.
Tell us that address there, Steve.
That web address is www.ths, for The Human Solution, -mi for the Michigan chapter, .org. ths-mi.org.
Fantastic.
All right, Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on the show. You guys have a great day, and you do great work. Thanks.
Thanks. Talk to you next week. All right, very good. So without further ado, we're going to return now to our other special point. I guess I'm going to say we're going to go on a little longer, if it's okay with the producer.
I'll think about it. We have a couple.
He's got to buy some extra minutes from the cable. I'm just kidding. But I wanted to, so let's, without further ado, we've got Steve Sharp from Jackson and Tim Beck, also known as the godfather of marijuana in Michigan. Welcome, gentlemen. What a pleasure to have you on today.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's been a good week. My God, I'm so happy about Deb and Jim. I mean, we all know each other. I mean, going back to the Mac days, and I have to say those two are absolutely fearless. They're heroes of mine, and I'm so happy that it's worked out for them, at least so far anyway, and real good news. And this ballot initiative thing, it was a super week. I mean, I've been working on cannabis reform for over 10 years now, and I have never seen the kind of media coverage that we got this week in Ferndale and Jackson and the thing about Lansing and all across the board. I mean, this was so incredible. Just to see all these cameras there in Ferndale, every TV network in Southeast Michigan was covering this thing. There was print media, there was WWJ radio, 950, and then there was smaller, the Ferndale Patch, and I mean, it was just every media outlet in the world. It was just Oakland Press. I mean, it was just stunning. And what that tells me is that we really got some momentum going. And I see the handwriting on the wall. And it's like, I don't know if you follow like Tim Skubic. He did a thing in M Live about a generalized kind of story. And he kind of compared our ballot initiative campaign of liberating city by city as a kind of creeping vine that's eventually going to take over your whole house, and it's going to be all up the sidewall before you know it. We're being taken seriously, and this is just it was wonderful. Steve, I know you had a fabulous situation in Jackson too.
Explain if you would.
It's been a great week.
Well, Steve, welcome to the show and congratulations as well. Why don't you tell us exactly the specifics of what took place? I know there was an event. The signatures were turned in. That was the event. And what happens now, and what is going to be? When is that happening? I should ask.
Well, okay, what the process is, and it's the same thing for Jackson. Steve, please correct if I get anything wrong. But what's going to happen now? We've turned in the signatures on the same day in Jackson and in Ferndale, and at this point, because both of these are amend the city code. See, both cities, Jackson as well as Ferndale, also have anti-drug ordinance is in their own books. It's illegal to have cocaine, marijuana, on and on. I mean, everything under the sun. They kind of replicate state law. And these municipalities did that some years ago in order to be able to capture fine money. Because some communities like Kalamazoo, for instance, the city of Kalamazoo did not have any anti-drug ordinances on their books at all. Anybody got busted for marijuana was always charged under state law. But some creative places like Detroit and Flint and Jackson and Ferndale also have their own anti-drug laws. So what we're doing, we're amending the ordinances, the city ordinances, to make possession, and they're both the same. They're exactly the same. What we're doing in Flint, not Ferndale, Jackson, and Lansing. We're going to be turning in SIGs in Lansing. We have already. We're tentatively scheduled to do it, by the way, at 11 a.m. on Monday. We've got the SIG. We're home free on that one. That's a very, very challenging one. But bottom line, each of these three initiatives are exactly the same. They make possession, use, or transfer. Transfer, yep, exactly. That's another little step we've taken. The ones we did in Detroit and Flint in the past, we didn't mention, and Ypsilanti, we didn't mention transfer. We're putting the word transfer in, and I think it's not going to hurt at all. We're going to win. but they're exactly the same. Possession, use, or transfer of an ounce or less of marijuana on private property by anyone who has attained the age of 21 years, no longer a crime in those cities, okay? So, and each of Lansing has its own anti-drug laws also. So we're doing essentially the same thing, although we're amending the Lansing City Charter, which is a little bit more powerful, but we did that because the number of signatures you need to amend the ordinances in Lansing is the same as as doing a charter amendment. It's quite harsh. It's 5% of all registered voters. But where if we did charter amendments in Ferndale or Jackson, we'd have to have more signatures. But bottom line, they're all the same. They're all exactly the same.
So it's going to be on the ballot when?
Oh, it'll be November. Okay. But what's going on next? Here's the next step. In Jackson and in Ferndale, the city clerk has 10 days to validate the signatures. And then once the signatures are validated, then the matter goes to the city council. And then either one, that goes to the city council, and then the city council has the choice. They can either pass it into law themselves as written by us, or they automatically have to send it on to the voters. So, it would really be nice. I mean, Jackson's seems to be a pretty friendly place from what I understand, Steve. You could tell a little better compared to Oakland County, but and nobody's ever done that. But that's the dynamic. I mean, we're going to know, pretty soon. But it would be on the ballot in November.
Steve, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, we're going to be working. We have quite a few people that are working with the city council right now in Jackson, and what we're hoping for is the council really does adopt this and become the first in Michigan to ever adopt this. That's kind of putting it to the voters, since they already have the numbers on the medical issue. They have the petition drive. We have a lot of people that have actually signed the petition that is in the government, including the prosecutor's office, police officers, court officers, because that is where I collected my signatures, was out in front of the courthouse. So that was a great place. I got to talk to a lot of different people there, and the sentiment in Jackson is they want it legal. We want it legal here in Jackson so they don't have to put it through the court system anymore. They're arresting people with cards, and the prosecutor's office is getting tired of prosecuting these people. And they said if I make a law, they're going to abide by the law. So that is what the prosecutor actually told me face to face. So this is what we did, is
the county prosecutor.
law.
You're talking about the
Correct.
county prosecutor?
Gary Garzinga.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had some bad encounters there, and they're not. But you know, you just got these quotes from what JNet or whatever it is. There. Anyways, what was the status? You're talking about the city council. We had Roger Mulford on a while back. He was giving us some feedback. They were trying to have some kind of moratorium, weren't they? To just kind of.
Well, they were trying to put another ordinance in that you could only use 20% of your house to grow your medical marijuana. They were putting a lot of stipulations on here to where you had to have the okay from the landlord. Well, the okay from the landlord is not justified through the state law. They don't need to have your medical records to rent to you, and this shouldn't be an option to them. So we're fighting that ordinance, and Roger fought that very violently, or very, very good, I should say, and the city attorney was supposed to let the council know to drop this. So we're going to find out at the next meeting. That's what's going on now, is did they drop this because of the issue that it's creating? It'll only wind up in court because they can't tell somebody that they can only use 20% of their own.
Yeah,
they can't tell them that.
Well, the Jackson Citizen Patriot, I mean, the newspaper, I mean, they just lambasted the council for that goofy, thing about those requirements on caregivers and stuff like that. It was rough.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, what they were trying to do is undermine what the voters said. So what's happening is they're really seeing the voters came out. They came out and signed the petitions. They've seen this happening. They see when they start something with medical marijuana in Jackson that they get a council room full of people in there. And I have to say that I have never met anyone in one of these meetings yet that was against the medical marijuana. People didn't understand. They were in there to find out, but they weren't really against it. Now it's only the council members, and it doesn't seem like they are. They're just trying to protect themselves. Well, what's going to happen is they're going to get voted out because we're looking for 420 friendly people.
Jim Beck, what's the likelihood now, because it's a off-election year, as a political pundit on this? Does the turnout change because of that? I mean, obviously.
No, I don't. Good question, Michael. The conventional wisdom among many so-called experts, which we've proven wrong a number of times, is that you want to do this stuff in a big turnout on election day, usually general election, statewide election, presidential election, et cetera. But we found that this particular issue, also plays well even in a small voter turnout universe. And the most specific example of that was Kalamazoo in 2011. That was a local election where we basically amended the charter, making possession or use no longer, we made it lowest law enforcement priority. And that was simply a municipal election, very, very small turnout, but we won with 66% of the vote. And all the establishment figures in the community came out against it, the newspaper, everybody. And it didn't even matter. Didn't even matter to the voters. It was 66%. It came through. And medical marijuana in Detroit back in 2004, that was the first ballot initiative in the state, on this type of thing. And we ran it in the primary and in August. And I got really criticized by MPP and some other so-called experts that you can't do that. That's the wrong thing. But anyway, it didn't matter. It passed overwhelmingly. And my theory is that the more sophisticated the voter, the more likely they are to vote yes, especially if you've got the demographics of the community are right. And I think the demographics in Jackson, in my mind, are perfect. Kalamazoo, Ferndale, of course, and I think Lansing, it's the same thing. I mean, I don't know about Holland, Michigan, or Bloomfield Hills, or something like that. I don't know, or Warren, but those type of communities are all very similar, and I believe we're going to win overwhelmingly. It's not going to matter. The conventional wisdom is not going to prevail. It does not have to be in a high turnout election. Well, and Kalamazoo is the proof of the pudding in my mind.
The question's premised on that. That's always been a very effective strategy used traditionally by the Republican Party. They've made many, many crossroads in political power by effectively organizing in these elections, having greater turnout. But you can't have 66% of the voter and not cross parties, right? I mean, it's something that obviously is not directed by that. So it kind of goes into the category that, the social issues to a certain degree, right? I mean, that's always where those agendas have been established and pushed in the off election. So I don't know, maybe it isn't, I mean, we know it's a issue that crosses party lines.
Yeah,
so,
it's almost in a way, it's sort of, to me, it's sort of very similar to abortion. It's similar to gun rights. There's people normally have very, very strong opinions. You're either pro-life or pro-choice. I mean, and there's very little middle ground in a way. And I find that I believe the same thing is true, on this marijuana issue, especially for incremental reform. Now, if you're talking full-blown legalization, or something like that, I don't know if the numbers would really be there, especially at least on a statewide basis. But for decrim and, of course, medical, the numbers are overwhelmingly in favor. And so I don't think it matters what time, when you have the election. It's going to win. It's a winner.
I agree. I think it is a small minority. So who are still holding on and believing that this issue is, going in any other direction. Steve, what do you take on Jackson now? Are they? You believe that the community, that the council is actually feeling the populace, so to speak, to manage?
Yeah, they're feeling the pressure.
Okay.
They are feeling the pressure. I know when I turned this in, we had, like Tim says, we had the reporters there from Channel 6, Channel 10, the newspapers, and they were already in, and they did some of the prelim stuff with the city clerk's office and that. And these people are all in smiles. They're kind of waiting for these petitions to get in. Because Jackson is kind of different than anywhere else. That my community, it seems that I have not really run into anybody that is against this. Even though the numbers are not there, they're not coming out and saying this. You can say that 33% was against this, but the 33% are not coming out and saying anything at all about it. What's happening, I'm seeing, because Mike Shirkey is our representative, and he's watched everything go down in Jackson now on the medical issues in that. And I've actually got a chance to talk to him over these issues in that and the industrial hemp. And now at least he's a co-sponsor on the 4623.
Yeah,
so
he's I'm sorry. I want to mention, I just want to point out for listeners, if you don't know who Mike Shirkey is, Mike Shirkey is probably, in my opinion, he's probably the number 3 man in terms of power in the Michigan House of Representatives. I think he is in the leadership. He is
leader.
There you go. Very sophisticated man. He was an engineering guy, with GM, and then he started his own company. He's also the author of the famous or infamous, depending on your perspective, right to work law. That was basically his creation. He was the sponsor. He's a pretty darn hardcore, definitely he's a hardcore economic conservative. And it's funny, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall about a year ago, Shirkey was saying that he was against decrim, and now he's changed his mind. I mean, am I wrong,
correct,
Steve? Yeah, there you go.
That's right. He was not on board with the medical issue because he is a facts man. He wants to know the facts. You show me the facts first, and then he'll go along with something. So he is actually in charge of, he is the chair for the committee for the state of competitiveness. And the discussions that we have was over the industrial hemp and getting this into Michigan before it went nationwide and all these other ones got the research. I was really trying to get the research here in Michigan. And going to him, and I gave him all these facts over everything. And I don't know if that helped change it, if he did a lot more work on his own, if maybe Irwin and some of the other individuals that are in and co-sponsors on the 4623 have been talking over a period of time. But I can say Mike Shirkey doesn't just jump on board for nothing. He has to have all of his facts first. And that's why I really like the gentleman.
Yeah.
You know, you're not just going to use your heart. You're going to use your mind.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to know the facts before you go, scientific facts.
Yeah.
So,
well, he's an engineer, for Christ's sake. I mean, he has a degree in engineering. I mean, he's a very. I had a brief conversation when that bill was announced. You know, up in Lansing, I chatted with him a little bit. A very amiable kind of guy, but you know, he seemed to have a real good mind. I mean, he does not make his decision based upon emotion. That's the sense that I get. It appeals to emotion. Are not going to work with this guy. You know, he's a real politic, you know, calculating individual, and I don't mean that as a put down, you know, or anything like that. But he doesn't move quick. Another thing what could be happening, Shirkey, and some of the other members of the Republican Party. I think there's a deep concern, given the results of the last election, with Obama winning much bigger numbers than what anybody expected. And, you know, the party itself, it's still powerful in Michigan, but nationally, I think it needs to really get out from under this Bible thumper, you know, type Christian farmer, and you know, on, and get off this social conservative shtick. I'm not saying drop, you know, right to life or anything like that, but I think this marijuana issue, it ties in with the libertarian wing of the party, you know, very well. And Justin Amash is a good example of that. Dan Benishek, they're libertarian Republicans. They voted in favor, you know, of the Hinckley-Rohrbacher amendment, getting the federal government off the back of states that have medical marijuana laws. So I think that could be part of the dynamic. Tom McMillan, the representative in Oakland County, he was the founder of the Christian Coalition of Oakland County. That's his shtick, okay? Going back to the 90s, that's how he made his political career. You know, now he's still against abortion. He's not a big fan of gay marriage, but on the other hand, he's really getting much more libertarian, you know, on the drug issue, on the overreach of, you know, federal and state authority and so forth. So I think that might be playing into it. That's just a theory of mine.
Hey, why don't you tell everybody about the meeting Representative Shirkey is going to be at in Grass Lake coming up, Steve. Let's let the public get a chance to know this guy up close and personal.
Yeah, what this is a town hall meeting with actually Representative Jeff Irwin out of Ann Arbor is coming over for this, and Mike Shirkey is going to be there, and Jim out of Chicago. What's his last name, Rick?
Jim Garrett.
Guy from Leap.
Speaker, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's coming over from Leap, and he's speaking over here, and Mike Shirkey's office has actually set this up. And I've actually been working with them on trying to get people to come to this, whether it be law enforcement or he wants everybody there that possibly wants to come and listen to this and have a voice in this. He wants a very short talk, and then he wants to listen to people. This is what Mike does, is he listens, and then he takes into heart what the whole community has to say. So we're not just inviting Jackson because this is statewide.
Yeah.
So
this is heavy duty.
This is heavy duty.
This is a big deal. This is a big deal.
And,
really,
and
any people listening out here, you know, consider going to this thing. I'm going to be there.
It is going to be a good meeting. It's going to be a good meeting, and they're expecting between 100 and 200 people.
Steve, give us the address, the time, and then also contact information for how we can find out more about this.
Okay, let's see here. Make sure he announced the law enforcement town hall meeting on August 14th. So this is going to be held at the let me see the district map. I'm on here. It is held at the Grass Lake Township Hall.
Wow. You couldn't come up with a date?
That's located.
Love it.
Pardon me?
Grass Lake.
Grass Lake is halfway in between Ann Arbor and Jackson, though. You know, so to get Irwin over and to get Shirkey over, and representatives from both places in Chelsea, because we're not just looking for the general public, they're also wanting the public officials to come to this. So that's something that I'm going to be doing, is going out and talking with these folks on coming to this. I want the law enforcement there. I want everyone there that can possibly show up to this.
Is it going to be a presentation, a debate? What's going to happen? What's the format? Do we know?
No, the format, let me see here. I have that. I wish I would have known that I was going to be doing this.
It's okay.
Let me see. Because it's up here, we have the meeting is going to be 5 to 7. It is going to be, let me see here.
Day is August 14th, actually.
Yeah, too many articles, and I've been sent over this now. Excuse me, people, I'm sorry. But if you got something else, Tim, until I can find this information.
Well, give us a website where people can look on the people listening online or watching this as a replay.
I know I posted it on Facebook, and that's in the Jackson Normal, the Michigan.
I think it's been on Safer Mich too, I think, or Michigan Normal.
I did on Safer Mich on Michigan Normal. Talk list.
Wednesday night, 5 to 7 at the Grass Lake Township Hall. It's just west of Chelsea and east a little bit of Jackson.
Well, not to plug it, but I put the press release was issued by the representative's office on the Compassion Chronicles, so you can go to www.thecompassionchronicles.com and read the press release that came straight from Representative Shirkey's office, which has the dates and times and all that information as well. I know we're running short on time, that's why I wanted to make sure we got that in there.
Yeah, thank you very much, because I just keep coming up with, we were in mirrors. This thing went totally nuts this week, and I'm so glad about it. People are talking good.
We only have about 2 minutes left, but we're going to go over. But I just wanted to pose this back to Tim. I was thinking about it. The Amsdells and Paul were talking about the possible appellate process, and this kind of case ended up before the Supreme Court. Of course, like I said, it doesn't have any. It's only going to matter for that case. It's not like this can be used, in the future for, culpable activity after McQueen. So some would think it would just be for that limited moment in time. But, as I think about it, I still think, you heard Paul describe the politics that, were kind of flushed out of that decision, how the judge was, the officers that were testifying, the complaining officers were not, St. Clair County sheriffs. They were the Michigan State Police. Sent in by Shooty. The community has a tremendous amount of support. The Amsdells, there was a license that they had to operate there. There's no other bad activity other than the police come in and being the purchasers of this. It's kind of a, she could flip it either way if she wants to be, and she says, I'm going with the community, and how dare you bring your thugs into this community? There's no complaints or whatever. And I almost think that, we talked about this before of how it was that resistance to Shooty that brought the Michigan Supreme Court together unanimously. And I just always wonder when it's him going at it like this. I mean, he has strength in the Court of Appeals, don't get me wrong. But I just, I think that the Supreme Court, it's not him politically, it's his overreach of power. It's overreach into the electorate and telling them, and that's where they keep going back to, which has been the one, saving grace of how the Supreme Court has looked at the ballot initiative. But any final thoughts on that?
Well, I would say real quick, the Supreme Court, it is not surprising, the decisions that they've been making. They are strict constructionists. It's the idea, the text of the language, that's really what prevails. The decisions that they've been made positive in our favor has been strict constructionists. No mumbo-jumbo, here it is in writing, boys and girls, fine. And then the other one, with McQueen, they took the position since dispensaries were not specifically written into the law enough for them. They said, too bad. So, they're...
No, but like...
I think they're fair. They're as fair as they can be, I guess. I don't know.
Without question, but one of the things that brought them together unanimously, I felt, was the overreach of our Attorney General.
Shooty did not do himself any good, Michael, at all. This aggressive, almost lawless contempt for the voters. It was not helpful for him. And he's kind of quieted down, I must say, lately. You know, and even Oakland County, by the way, it was interesting as all these reporters, tried to get comments from Bouchard and Brooks Patterson and Jessica Cooper. They hid out. They wouldn't say a damn thing about this Ferndale thing. The only one that even came out was the chief of police in Ferndale, and he basically said, "Oh, hey, the equivalent of FU, state law prevails, doesn't mean nothing." But Bouchard and that whole Oakland County crowd wouldn't even comment. Period.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Interesting revelation. Thank you, Mr. Beck.
At some
It
point,
has been a great week, gentlemen. A great week in activism in Michigan.
You betcha. Right on, man. Good night.
all the cities at some point, all the cities that surround the Oakland County Jail will then be decriminalized at some point. They will then be surrounded by, and need to gate themselves in, so to speak.
It's okay. Bouchard has a helicopter at his disposal, as we all know.
Well, he wouldn't say anything. He hid out. And Fox News was very aggressive trying to reach Bouchard. And they even said that Bouchard, and then even the Fox News guy, that guy from India or whatever, Ranish, whatever, anyway, said they couldn't reach Bouchard, period. And then he kind of spoke for Bouchard. Yeah, that's the guy. That's right. Yeah. No, they couldn't get nothing. They wouldn't even comment. They wouldn't even touch that with a 10-foot pole. And Bill Leitner, too, from the Free Press. I mean, he tried very, very aggressively to get them to comment on it. They wouldn't touch it. So, and it's ironic. It's beautiful to see it happening in Ferndale, was the very place that Judy and Brooks, and that whole Oakland County crowd went after. With Ryan Richmond Clinical Relief, that's where they made their first move, with the guns and masks and all that crap.
Mayor Covey supporting it. He collected signatures himself.
Oh, fantastic.
In support of it. He was in the paper before the raid.
Right inside the facility, yes. It was atrocious, and then of course you look at the result of that. That's been charges dismissed in Oakland County for the same logic that the Blue Water family just received their dismissal for.
All right, well, let me ask one final question, Steve Sharp. The 10 days they have, the council is 10 days, that I understand, and also in Ferndale to adopt.
No, it's the clerk. The clerk has 10 days to canvass.
Verify the signatures.
Yeah, and then it goes to the council, and I think they have 30 days in order to make a decision. Okay, and if they don't, then it automatically goes to the ballot.
Well,
that's the process.
We're going to need to get some timeline here, and when we want to get some updates and know where we're at. Maybe we'll have it in one place, right? That's still
Ferndale, maybe. Not Jackson with their city council.
Well, that's just
you never know. You never know. I mean, the tide is rapidly changing in our favor. I mean, I would not be out and out shocked, okay, if one or both of them did it. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at anything, but it could happen. It could happen.
Yeah. That would just be the staple that we need, though.
That's right.
I hope.
Right on.
I'm working on this, and Roger's working on this hard also.
All right, guys.
The more education you give these people, the better off they are.
Right.
What a great week.
All righty. You guys have a
great night, gentlemen.
All right, babe. All right.
Thanks for your great leadership in all this, of course, and Steve, you as well, and we appreciate all your hard work.
Tim, there are other people involved in Ferndale that need some credit here. I don't think we've mentioned them tonight.
Yes, please. Let's throw some credit around, if it matters.
Did he split?
Yes.
Who's his name? Andrew?
Andrew Sissel, I believe, if I remember.
We'll have to get him on the program later on, but
Andrew Sissel, yes.
He worked a lot of that whole program in Ferndale.
And if you watch some of the video, you'll see him actually turning the petitions in. Courageous guy, young guy. He's running for state representative. He ran last year, and he's running it again in 2014. So there's a 420 friendly candidate on the slate for you right there, Democrat in that district.
We're going to do a little wrap up here. So it's a fascinating. What's going on in Lansing? I know we said the attorney I know I spoke to recently.
Petition signatures have to be turned in on Thursday.
And Tim felt confident that they had the signatures now.
In fact, I know, based on emails from Safer Mich, that I believe Ben Horner and his crew from Flint have been up there helping to collect signatures.
Ben Horner's one that needs credit. He's been helping
sure
out in all of these things. He's funded quite a bit of it,
Sure
and
has.
he's been on the streets collecting signatures himself with his crew and paying people himself to do it as well.
And that's a guy who's already got a full plate, too. He's a publisher of the MMM report, as well as having a fine establishment up in Michigan Organic Solutions, and they do certs and all that stuff. So that's right in my hometown of Flint, Michigan, right where I live. So credit where credit's due, and I know those guys have been on the street collecting signatures this week, and congrats to everybody involved in that effort. I think everyone believes they'll have sufficient signatures to turn in on time.
Dewey, what did you think about the show? Did you like it?
Oh yeah, I thought the show was great, but you guys should try to advertise for anyone that's won one of these big lotto multi-million events. They should get a hold of this organization and these people that are sitting here tonight and donate some of that money to make this legal in the state. I'm sure that some of those people out there that have all that money could cut loose of some of that and make things right.
You know, there are a lot of funding sources that are just unavailable to Michigan at this time because nationally they're looking at states that don't have marijuana laws, and they certainly are looking at us within the state to self-fund any kind of action that it would take to correct issues that we have currently. So I love it, Dewey. I don't know how many lotto winners are listening to the show, but every one of you that is, donate right now.
You know, really,
MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
You're wondering what to do with that money? We're trying to help you.
That's one of the things that Jack Hare always said is, well, we'll kind of close it down here, but it always amazed him. I think it was the quote that with all the people that have engaged in the medical use of cannabis, if merely limited donation was made on each of those transfers over the history of time, even going back 5 years, 10 years, the amount of resources available to defeat the insane prohibitions would be phenomenal. And it's upsetting that there's not the support from the community of those that would benefit most from it. But further, that also he preached this must be the most important issue and must be voted upon in every election. And we're seeing those things develop as we discussed tonight. Jimmy, any final thoughts?
Well, there was additional good news this week in Illinois.
Hold on. Wait. Microphone was on. Go, try again.
There was additional good news this week in that Illinois became the 20th medical marijuana state, and 40% of the population now lives within a medical marijuana state. And Uruguay came, or at least what is going through the process of becoming legal. There's still another vote that needs to happen. But there was a raid by the DEA in Ypsilanti, which is not very cool, not part of the good news this week, and that's a little bit concerning, but we're trying to find out more details on that.
Chad, any final thoughts?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, Rick?
Always. Listen, I just want to call attention to the Mackinac Bridge Walk that's coming up. I guess this year Michigan Normal is getting a little bit more involved. There's a meet and greet the day before, and there's a breakfast afterward. It's going to be a fantastic event. And once again, that's another one of these opportunities where there'll be a ton of press, a ton of cameras, and if there are 100 of us walking across the bridge, all sporting shirts, people ask questions, it sparks conversations. It's a fantastic day, but it's for a great cause. And if you are able, you should consider making the trip. And if you're not able to walk, there are a lot of things to do to help out the movement up there in preparation for or in preparation afterwards. So you can always get on Facebook, look at the Michigan Normal Facebook page, take a look at some of the social media that we do. But the Bridge Walk is becoming one of the more significant activities that we have in the state. It's about a month away.
All right, that's it. I want to say thank you to our guests.
Dewey has some final thoughts,
Dewey.
too, I think.
All right, Alpha. I was going to thank all of our guests. I really enjoyed always having good news on the show. I feel like I could have talked to Paul Tolin a lot longer, and I feel bad that I
What
cut
a great guy. What a
Jim
great
and
guy.
Deb out. But I think we balanced it out. And it's just fascinating to just always hearing some of these other judges go about it.
Outstanding verdict.
Well,
Outstanding.
Remember, folks, with professional canvassers, we can accomplish things that's unimaginable. And to have those professional canvassers ready for the next election or whenever we can get this on the ballot again, all it takes is one of you multimillionaires to step forward, and we can get this done.
There you go. Very, very well said. I know with all that being said, we are going to call it right there. This has been episode 159, Planet Rangers. Thanks for listening. We'll see you. Talk to you next week.